So today, So today I'm celebrating my 50th year anniversary of riding motorcycles. And I want to talk about what I've learned, how I started, and how do you stay alive for 50 years without any horrible wrecks. This is a recent bike I just bought. This is a 2013 Hyper Strada. Low miles, well maintained. This is a Ducati's touring hypermotard bike, and it's a little awkward, it's a little weird for me, but I've had every bike you can think of. So let's talk about how this all started for me. Two-wheeling, just bike, god dang it. Riding two wheels, started on bicycles when I was about 6 years. Well, no. Let's see, 80, 90, 2000. I wasn't taught how to ride a bicycle, nor did I have training wheels. My dad was a busy guy. He owned a company in Chicago. And so I remember taking my bike out in a cul-de-sac, and I would run as fast as I can and jump onto the seat and wipe out and do it again and again, all bruised up, cut up. And then eventually I got riding a bicycle down. But hurting yourself, falling is part of learning. That's how you get good. So years went on, many years, and rode BMX. So it started by riding a bicycle. When I was 9 years old, my older brother Rick had an SST mini bike, and he would let me ride that. And it's the bike that had the folding handles. You have these two hand screws right here, and you can fold the handlebars down and back up. And so that was my first experience riding a motorcycle. The second bike I had was in my early teens, and for Christmas I got a KX 250. Now this bike was not a normal bike. A friend of mine's dad bought it from a mixed racer who wrecked the bike, and he ended up paralyzed from the waist down. So there's like some curse on this bike. And then my friend's dad bought the bike, and I think he broke some ribs and stuff, and it said it's just too squirrely for him. So my parents bought it for me for Christmas. And I think at that time they just probably wanted to get rid of me. So I remember Christmas morning and sitting out on the porch, just 2 feet of snow. We live out in the country. And I couldn't wait to get on that thing and ride it. So I took it out, 2 feet of snow, and I got on the road, and just a sheet of ice. And I rode on that, and that front end dive so fast, just wiped out. And that was actually my first very painful wreck. That bike had a power band. There was something about it that was just way too quick. So a couple years later, I actually enrolled in what they call the China Hat Desert Race in Central Oregon, and they have it every year. And I entered one race. This is my first race, and I know nothing, very little about desert racing. And I remember before we started, these two older guys came up and they insisted I had a shot of tequila, and I'm like, why? I don't drink. And they're like, no, you need to have something to relax you. And they said, just take a half a shot, just a little bit. What a journey riding in what we call the moon dust, the sand, the high desert of Central Oregon with the sagebrush everywhere, juniper, lava rock. We're not talking weathered, smooth rocks. We're talking super sharp rocks. So that was my first experience in racing. And in the time I had that KX 250, I'd say I've wrecked well over 100 times. That's how you get good on a bike. It's just the way it is. And I tell everybody this day, if you want to learn how to ride a motorcycle, start in dirt. Because if you can ride dirt, pavement's easy. Gravel's completely different than sand, completely different than mud, completely different than packed dirt. Then combine that with having to use several different parts of your body, the clutch, the shifting, the throttle, the brakes. And honestly, some people don't have the coordination for it, and they probably should never ride a motorcycle. You definitely want to learn on dirt. That's first and foremost. And you actually become a professional at wrecking. And people think that's crazy, but when you've done it enough times, you know to, at a certain tipping point, let the bike go. You know, they say women are better at wrecking motorcycles because they just kind of fall off of it. You know, we men, we fight it, and that's how you break bones and you do all sorts of damage. You know when I can't recover at this point, so now I need to tuck and roll. But as somebody who's been raised riding dirt, you get so used to it that even to this day, if I'm on a motorcycle, if I'm in a car, and there's a possible wreck happening, anything under 60 miles an hour to me is actually very comfortable. I don't get stressed about it. Build a confidence in there, and you learn almost by accident recovery over a period of time. When that front wheel does its thing, you just learn how to adjust your body. And what dirt teaches you is something that I even found difficult when I got back on motorcycles in 2015, to loosen up. You know, older guys or anybody that's new on a bike, they're all stiff and they, they're like this and they lean. And then when you get on gravel, you're even tighter and you're looking 6 feet in front of you and you see these huge ruts and you're like, oh my God, and then you're trying to keep it from sinking and tipping. And then there's a corner and now you're going towards that corner and you can feel this like, oh God, oh God. And sometimes you go off and a lot of times you dump it. On a dirt bike, and it's the same on a street bike, there's a time when you want to grasp the bike and dance on it. Dance. Like seriously, loosen up. And the older you get, you just gotta, it's almost exaggerating when the back end's going and you're like this, keeping your arms up like this. And you're just, and the bike is dancing. And then eventually on gravel, especially thick gravel, you get to the point where you can do 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. It's not a problem. If you look down at your bike at that speed, once you get comfortable, the bike's like in this constant wreck. It's doing this like crazy. And you just look forward. And when you're coming onto a gravel corner, you look as far out as you can. And that bike will just dance under you, underneath you. And the back end will kick out and you'll learn how to throttle it on some corners and whip. You're not leaning like this. You're standing up straight and the bike's leaning down. You're doing that and you're staying centered. There's a time we go forward. There's a time we go backwards. This is riding motorcycles. So I love adventure motorcycle riding, dual sport riding. I prefer dirt. But when you get on pavement, and I'll say it, and a lot of motorcyclists agree with me, if you were raised on dirt, you're a better motorcycle rider than somebody that's only ridden street. You know what you're capable of. So you learn so much by putting time in the bike. You're gonna dump the bike, you're gonna wreck the bike, and some people that really push it, you're gonna get injured, you're gonna break bones, you're gonna get lacerations, and you're gonna learn the hard way. So every time you wreck one of these things in dirt, you're learning something about balance and about wrecking and what your capability is. The times I've wrecked hard or broke bones and serious lacerations, I remember in that moment I'm like, I'm done riding motorcycles. You think you're done. And I went several years without riding a motorcycle. And it wasn't because of a wife or a girlfriend I had or having kids. I just thought I was done. One day I had this garbage truck pull out of the street and went into the center lane, and I thought he would just pulled out in front of me and he was just gonna continue on the opposite direction. And I was doing about 50 miles an hour down Division Street, Bend, Oregon. If you're from there, you know what road I'm talking about. So he pulled out and I'm thinking he's just gonna keep going. Well, he stops and starts backing in front of me. And I'm going fast enough, and we didn't have ABS back then. At least the bike I had didn't have it. I'm used to being on a dirt bike. The toughest thing for me to build a habit with on a street bike is using the front brakes more often. I've just always used the back brakes over the front brakes riding dirt. And so I'm hitting the brakes, the back end's locking up on me, and once you do that, the back starts sliding. And I'm thinking in just milliseconds, what do? Lay on the ground, go underneath the truck? Do I jump up in the last minute, stick my feet and hands out? This stuff is going through my head. But while I was sliding, the back end was sliding, I looked over and the sidewalk dropped where he pulled out the driveway. And I was like, oh, okay. So I let off the back brake and the bike was like this, and it naturally went towards that sidewalk, probably still doing 30, 35 miles an hour, and got up on the sidewalk, rode it, jumped out on the other side of the garbage truck, and then continued forward. It wasn't until the next stoplight where my adrenaline was kicking in, and this guy behind me honks and he yells, that was cool. So if I wasn't riding dirt, I wouldn't have known, oh, look at this, I'm at a cemetery. In 2015, my brother-in-law, God, phone, you don't know what a pain in the ass is to record, especially on a windy day. So 2015, my brother-in-law buys a 2015 DR650, and he rode it around a while, and he really didn't like it, so he sold it to me. And I was like, oh, it's been a few years since I've been on a bike. I've never owned a dual sport before. Well, yes, I have. I can't remember all the bikes I've owned. Living here in the Northwest Oregon, it's like, why would you not have a dual sport adventure motorcycle? Why? It doesn't make sense to me. So I started riding that sucker around and bought some cheap bags, the saddle bags that go over the real cheap stuff. Yeah, I started packing up and, lunch, and bought some gear and started doing longer trips. And then I remember I couldn't afford the panniers. And so I saw somebody in a video who had the ammo cans. So I bought a pair of, they were 20 pounds each, 19-pound ammo cans. So I'm looking at almost 40 pounds of metal. And I sandblasted them, and I kept them that silver metal, and I clear coated it, and I put these stickers on and clear coated it, and so I packed that sucker up, and I started going further. And I really like those cans, other than they're really dangerous, grabbing your leg, foot down on the dirt. Now I bought camping gear, tent, and all this stuff. Now I'm getting into the reviews of equipment. And I remember one day I rode to Florence, Oregon. I wanted to go ride in the sand dunes on this DR650 with 40 pounds of panniers and then probably another 40 pounds of gear. So I had 80 to 100 pounds of gear. And I get to Florence, and when you get to the sand dunes, you go through this parking lot, it's paved, and then it just turns into the sand dunes. And so I went, doing probably 40 miles an hour through the parking lot. I'm like, oh yeah, here we go in the sand. And stock tires, didn't air them down. The stupid Deathwing tires that come on the DRs. Oh, my head was chopped off. As soon as I hit the sand, sure enough, I sunk it and flipped the bike. And I realized that I have forgotten how to ride some surfaces. So when people tell you it's like riding a bike, no, it isn't. I remember as a kid, I just buzzed through it. It was no problem. There was a relearning curve that now I'm dumping bikes again and everything's happening once again. I thought I was really good. So of course the motorcycle ego is hurting and I'm getting older. So then, but I really took a liking to venture motorcycling. And so I started buying better gear and going further, and I rode some of the Oregon BDR, and I rode a little bit of the Trans-American Trail, and you feel how hot it is, cold it is, uncomfortable it is. You'd never have a bad riding day. I've never had a bad riding day. You just had bad riding moments. Riding in 100-degree weather, you're sweating your ass off, which by the way, I got a sheepskin. I get the real thick sheepskins, the thick fur, real wool. I swear to you, whether you think it looks goofy or not, like, what's that Mel Gibson movie? Every time I get on camera, I just forget stuff, and I'm an idiot. I'm trying to work on this. It's like, just fucking relax. Road warrior, that's it. So now I'm starting to get the hang of riding motorcycles again. So I kept returning back to my DR650, and everybody's like, well, it's just an old style bike. It's a tractor like the KLR 650. And by the way, those are the two motorcycles that if you're going to tour the world, you'll want to do it on one of those two bikes, because the DR650 they've made since the same bike, just different graphics and colors, maybe a little stuff here and there they've changed. It's been the same design since 1996. So if you're touring the world and you're in South America, Africa, it doesn't matter where you go. If something breaks on a DR650 and you're out in the middle of nowhere, out in the desert, I guarantee you can walk maybe 100 yards and you will find that DR part sitting in the desert. That's how abundant the parts are. And it's super easy to work on. You can basically strip down a DR650 with like something like 16 or 19 tools. And I really enjoyed the DR650. I liked that it was carbureted. I liked that I've never had to, I don't care for ABS to this day. It's cheating. Now, I guess now what they have in these newer is wheelie control. Cheater. You're a cheater. So really, since 2015, I have really gone more into adventure motorcycling. And again, why wouldn't you, living in the Northwest? I mean, why wouldn't you? There's just hundreds, if not thousands of miles of back roads where you can get away from people. And plenty of cemeteries where I can just sit here and make a fool out of myself in front of your relatives. One summer, or actually in March, I decided to ride Arizona, Nevada, all the way back up to Oregon. And so I literally spent 6 weeks in Arizona and Death Valley. Now, I never went to the California side of Death Valley. The real Death Valley is in the Nevada side. I found this Airbnb called Twisted Branch in Crystal, Nevada, which is an interesting little town. And it's so mysterious. It's so amazing. The writing is phenomenal. There's these flats out there that's a lot like the Salt Flats. And it was just, the temperature was perfect. And March, April, right in that area. And it's just endless beauty, mystery, kind of haunting. You have the nuclear test sites that weren't far from there. Those were interesting to go see. And the room I was renting was like this motel. It's like 6 rooms. Was the place where the scientists would stay during the nuclear testing that they had like 30 miles away from where I was staying. You know, before I get ahead of myself here, I just do that all the time. I'm so dyslexic. No, I'm lexdysys, which is the reverse of dyslexic, and that means I'm even dumb. I'm even worse. I'm reversed, and yeah, you'll notice that in my video. So I started building the DR. They have endless modifications for that bike. It's just unbelievable how much money you can spend in better components to make it better. And I boarded it out to a 790. I got the web racing cam in it. I got all stainless steel header on it. I got the Leo Vince exhaust where you can change the tips to quiet or loud. You don't have to pack the exhaust ever. All the really expensive stuff. I took all my plastics and painted them tan, and I recommend you do this. It worked. I took the plastics down to a sandblast shop. I told them just lightly sandblast it, make it a little rough, and then I put a primer on, like 3 coats. Then I put the paint on, like 2 coats, and then like 3 layers of clear coat. And usually if you paint plastics, it'll just chip and peel. These never did that. But I wanted that desert tan with the black rims. Yeah, so and I was noticing the amount of energy, like my energy levels were increasing. I was losing weight, and I just couldn't get enough of riding. You know, I did so many different trails. I was on it every day. Oh my God, I can go on and on and on. Like, I can't get enough of it. To this day, I can't get enough of it. And here I am, 59 years old. I thought about taking this and making this an adventure bike just as some new content. And then you learn about gear, how important gear is. Oh God, I probably have all kinds of mic noise. I hope not. I hate coming back and filming again. I modified that DR as much as you could. I spent right at $18,000 in a DR 650, which came up to like $27,000, $28,000. And I was getting it ready to tour the world. So now I'm back in shape. I've got all the right gear, all the Moskamoto bags, climb gear, all like thousands of dollars worth of just riding gear, and started charting out my route. And then COVID hit and totally screwed up my plans. Totally. So I never got to tour the world. And I'm thinking a lot about doing it now. I'd have to raise the money for it again. Would I do it again on a DR650? I think I would. Pretty sure I would. I know exactly what to do to the bike and things that you didn't have to do. That $18,000 I spent wasn't on just, you know, these foot pegs. I mean, you would go through different type of foot pegs and different type of gear. And so that was not, you know, by the time I finished, I had exactly what I wanted. It was the right height, the right stance, the right weight, the right tires, the right springs, the right shock. And that bike was built for me. It was so comfortable to ride. So I sold the bike and went without a bike for about a year. And then I bought a GS650, not the right bike, way too small for me, way too heavy for what it is. Then I bought a KTM 450, that was nice, but it was underpowered for me. And then I bought a Tenere 700, brand new one. Rode it for 4 months. It just felt like a huge dirt bike to me. I'm sure if I put more time on it, I would master it, but I was just at this point, this was, a year and a half ago. And I was just like, you know, and if you go through my videos, my playlist or whatever, you'll see that. And I was like, God, I don't know if I can get back into adventure motorcycle. I don't know if I could do it. And so I sold the Tenere 700. And then I bought a CF Moto Ibex 450. And when I first got the bike, like a lot of us new to that bike or fairly new to the country, we thought it was going to be this Chinese piece of crap. And it wasn't. In fact, I thought that was a unicorn of bikes. I couldn't believe how light it was. It had plenty of power. It did great on the highways, carrying all my gear. And so last summer I spent about 3 months on the road and traveled the west, and from Apache Junction, Arizona, all the way north. I wanted to get out of the heat, so I went all the way up to Sequim, Washington, and then stayed there until fall was just rolling in. Then I bought this RV and wanted to continue the journey. And this RV is very cool. It's a C-Class motor coach with a toy hauler built in the back of it. I'm like, this thing is cool. These are hard to find in this good a shape. Sold the Ibex because the money's running out. I've spent a lot of hours on it, so I was like, okay, I think I'm done with the Ibex. And 2 weeks later, I regretted selling that bike. It is really an ideal bike, requires very little modifications on it. The price you can't beat, and it's a tough bike and very comfortable on long trips if you get the rally seat, which is 2 inches higher or thicker. Didn't need much. So 2 weeks later, I regretted selling it. But then again, this is Oregon. I was expecting this huge winter. We really haven't had much of a winter here. And winter here, not a winter. I got a cold, okay? And then about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I saw this Ducati for sale. And I'm like, just get it. You love bikes. And now it's for sale. I'm going to pack up the bike and continue this conversation back at camp. How's that sound? Because I'm all over the place here. I never script this stuff. That's the thing about adventure motorcyclists, like real adventure motorcyclists. We plan to go on trips. We plan to do all sorts of things, but 98% of the time we take different roads and we end up going a completely different direction, just like Picasso with his paintings. He had an idea of what he wanted to paint, and by the time he was done, it's completely different. And there's a beauty in art in that as a painter to just flow and just let it turn into what it is, because there's no such thing as an accident when you paint. That type of painting, you just keep painting and let it turn into what it wants to turn into. And that's the beauty of adventure motorcycling, ADV riding. Okay, let's continue this back at base. Okay, let me look at my notes. Nope, I don't have any notes. I just improvise, like riding motorcycles, like painting. So let me share a few things I might do different than most of you do on a motorcycle after literally thousands and thousands of miles and 50 years of riding. First of all, I never use my horn. I think a horn doesn't need to be on a motorcycle, and the reason for that is when you're driving around in traffic, nobody really knows where the horn's coming from. And a lot of times you're in a situation where you get a second or two to think about what you want to do based on somebody else's horrible driving. And that's time to react versus yelling at them, hey, you're not going, hey, you're just beep. And then people are getting these train horns now, and if you ever heard one of those go off, it's just ridiculously loud, to where the first time I heard it, I literally felt my adrenaline kick in, zap, and I froze up, and I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea where it came from. And so using your horn, even if you're trying to remind somebody that's going to be pulling out in front of you, chances are they can't hear you, and if you have a loud train horn, they don't associate a train horn with a motorcycle, or somebody might just be starting to cross in front of you. It just makes everybody within the intersection around you go like this, and now you can't predict their movements. Well, stop using the horn, honestly, unless you're saying hi, beep, beep. There's some occasions where you would use that, but the time you spend to push your thumb, there's a reaction time there, and that's worked out for me very well. Now, if you want to yell at somebody after they do something stupid, then be stupid, and it doesn't get your point across. And most people today, even if they're in the wrong, they're not going to go, sorry. I do. If I did something wrong, I'll fully claim it, but most people don't. They're pretty insecure out there. Plus, today, people are just not paying attention to driving anymore. They're texting, they're talking, they're video chatting, they're watching a movie. And then these smart cars today, like Tesla, they haven't fully adjusted to a motorcycle yet, as far as I know. They're making quick stops and quick turns and not calculating your little motorcycle in it. So I keep the 4 to 5 car distance no matter what. I never tailgate. When I see people do that on a motorcycle, car, anything, it's just, what it tells me is they are subconsciously driving. They don't like driving. They just want to get to their destination. They take no joy in it. And you should probably take a subway or a train or hitchhike, or no, maybe not hitchhike, bad idea. Another thing I do, and the beauty of having an adventure type bike or a bike that you're sitting up versus crouched down like this, is it's easier to stand up on. So a lot of times if I'm questioning somebody pulling out in the intersection in front of me, because they're doing this, and you can see them kind of easing in there, I'll, instead of honking, I'll stand up. And that looks really obvious because I'm 6'2", so I'm this 8 foot human being standing up, and they notice you. So I do that quite often. Let's say you have a bunch of cars parallel parked on whatever, it doesn't matter, this side, and you've got some pickups that are pretty high and cars, and they're jam-packed in there. There's just a whole row of these cars, and then there's an intersection, you know, between it. You're riding and you can't see the car, and if you've been in that car, you have to pull out a little further to see past whatever vehicle's parked there. So I always stand when it's just a sketchy situation like that, stand, and then they can see my head right, you know, like this over the cars, and anything for visibility. Another thing I do constantly, I don't know if you do this, again, these are just things over years of riding that I pay attention to. So the car comes to a stoplight, you know, I pull in, I keep a good distance away, I don't get right on their arse. I don't know why you do that also. I need getaway room. So if I flip it this way, the car stops, here I am on my motorcycle. When I stop, I point the wheel either on the left or the right of it, and I'm looking for an escape route. And as soon as I stop, I pitch the wheel that way. I have enough room, I'm not like this. And then I adjust my handlebars and I look in my mirror to make sure the car behind me is stopping. I do that constantly. I've had some close calls. Another thing, the few times I've almost been in a collision with another vehicle is when you're driving down a road, usually a country road, and you'll see the car in front of you pull on the shoulder, put their blinker on even sometimes, and pull into the shoulder. And we assume they pull into the shoulder, you're like this. Okay, so yeah, let's see if we can figure this out. And they pull on the shoulder and you think it's okay to go. I've had more times where this happens. They pull on the shoulder and they start doing a U-turn. I've had that happen so many times, so great. I'm so glad I've never collided. Let's see, what else do I do that most people don't do? Well, I'll say this, when you have a Venture ADV or a dual sport type bike for long trips, I love the ability, I actually buy foot pegs, resting pegs on my engine guards so I can change my positions up like this, and then standing on long trips is so nice to do, and I'll do squats on the bike and stand up and kind of stretch, you know, no cars are around. That's one of the benefits of a Venture type, upright type motorcycle. Oh, I signal a lot of times. If somebody's up in front of me and they're doing this, you know, they look like they're in a rush, I'll point, I'll turn the blinker on and point. I just want to make sure I'm visible. So I'm watching them. I'm watching their head motions and how they're moving their car. One thing I do often, I don't know if it's just good karma or it's just respect, because there's a lot of motorcyclists out there that are jerks. And there's a whole world of people that hate motorcyclists because of what you do on them. And when you're a veteran like me, you see people getting more and more impatient with motorcyclists. Doing 60, 70 miles an hour down some country road, and there's a car coming and stops and waiting for me to go by, and I could tell they can see me coming. I'm always nodding at them, just letting them know, thank you, I appreciate it. Accidents happen. I don't think anybody does it on purpose, but the fact that they really paid attention to that, I do it constantly. So let's reward those people and let them know that a lot of us bikers have respect for them and we're not all jerks. So When you're on a lot of country roads, paved roads out in the country, especially here in Oregon and Washington, a lot of roads don't have shoulders. And so you literally have shrubbery. The dense trees and bushes and everything are just right there. So the chances of an animal coming out and having enough reaction time is very slim. Possum, raccoon, dogs, up in northwestern Washington, meth zombie out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. So I have a habit of, here's your stripe part of the road. I ride towards the middle. I'm sure a lot of you do this, but there's a lot of people who don't think about this. Not on the stripes, because if it's wet, the painting stripes, they are slippery. They can be slippery. I ride as close to the middle as possible, so it gives me a little bit more awareness of what's coming down the road. And when a car's coming the other way, just before they come, I kind of move over and then come back in. A lot of this stuff I'm sure most of you do. I'm sure I'll think of some other ideas that I use that I'm thinking most people don't. But a motorcycle isn't as dangerous as you think it is if you ride it correctly and you go through training and you put your time into it. That's why I recommend to every new motorcyclist, learn on dirt first. You'll learn so much about it. Yes, you're going to wreck, but wear all the gear. Before you know it, you understand the balance and the acceleration and how this machine, your steel horse, works. The joy of riding motorcycles, it's just so visceral. You can't get that in any other vehicle, not even a convertible, because you're in the elements and you can feel the temperatures change, from shade to sun. You can smell everything, leaves burning. You'll be up in the mountains and it's morning time. You can smell the campfire smoke. You can smell the skunk a half a mile down the road, which I don't think is a bad smell when you're far away. I kind of like it. I know, I'm crazy. And just being out there, it's so much bigger. Everything's so much bigger when you're on a motorcycle. Like when you see motorcyclists splitting lanes, and I've done my fair share of that. There's more room than you think. When you're sitting on this motorcycle riding between cars and everything, there's like, to you it looks like this, and it's actually very big. There's like a lot of room that you have, a lot of reaction time depending on your speed and your skill level with maneuvering the bike. Splitting lanes I think is fine. I think it should be legal in every state, because being from Oregon, it hasn't been legal here. I don't know if it is now, but in California it's been legal for a long time. And when I would travel through California, after years of being in Oregon, I would forget that splitting lanes is legal there. And there's many times when I'm going to switch into the left lane and all of a sudden, boom, this motorcycle goes by and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to think about that. I really think it should be illegal in all states or legal in all states, so we can all get used to that. On a motorcycle, you have a lot more room. You are out in the open and you feel very small in a lot of places. And that's one of the benefits of it too. The first time I went over the Golden Gate Bridge on a motorcycle, that'll make you a little dizzy, because you're not only really high up, as soon as you hit the bridge, this wind typically hits you and you've got these fog or clouds just blowing in, and you can see it drops, I don't know, 300 feet. I can't remember what it is, but it's huge, and the bridge is huge. You feel so small and powerless. And then you have the grades, where you got to be able to ride that just right, the metal grades. And it's California, so everybody's doing twice the speed limit over it. But it's a rush, and it's absolutely beautiful. And it's such a freedom to just stop when you want to. I carry this little fold-out chair, make a coffee real quick, just really notice where you're at. Very meditative. I think if I were to put it in a number, if you're just spacing out riding your motorcycle, let's say for more than, like just spacing out, thinking about life and problems, and even if there's no cars, you're on a country road, and you're spacing out like people do in their car for more than 2 minutes, you're in trouble. The transition from spacing out and then, I'm riding, is different than a car. If you're into driving, and most people that have motorcycles are into driving, they enjoy the skill it takes to ride a motorcycle or drive a car, is it keeps you in the present moment. And a lot of people learn meditation just to do that, to not be thinking. The monks call it monkey mind. And oh my God, what am I going to do tomorrow? All the bills, and my girlfriend left me, and my boyfriend left me, whatever. There's it just puts you really in the present moment. You're paying attention. You're trying to carve your corners just perfect. It never ends. And there's times where you just lay back and squeeze the tank and put your hand up on the bar, or put the cruise control in, and just sit there in a straightaway, and you're paying attention. A lot of times I'll stick my arms out. It's really healthy. It's really good for you. And really the mission in life to maintain a happier demeanor is to be present here all the time. Because when you're here, there's less problems. It's all, the mind has nothing but problems. That's the little drama queen, little baby sitting in the corner of our brain. You don't have enough money, I'm not free enough. That little nagging thing. I've learned the importance of being mindful. And so a motorcycle is one of the easiest ways to develop your mindfulness. And then I'll be gone as long as I need to, 4 or 6 hours, 10 hours. Many times I've stopped at a hotel and just stayed the night, put on the same clothes, take a shower, put on the same gear, and head back home. Because you just get into this groove of absolute exploration, and I especially love not having a plan, just I'm gonna go that way. The adventure of it is amazing. And even when you break down in the middle of nowhere, when something happens to your bike or a flat tire, you're several miles away from cell phone service or any service whatsoever, but you have your camping gear, you have food, you have water. Your initial response is, oh shit, no, not here. Why does it have to be out here in the middle of nowhere? And then just a few moments later, you're like, well, I kind of wanted to be out here. And I was looking for a good excuse to just settle down, like park the bike and just chill. And this kicks in with me, and I'm like, well, here I am. And now you have to clear your mind, relax, maybe pull out your fold-out chair, make a coffee, get some water, a little snack, and look at the bike, look around, clear your mind, and the answers come. I have fixed my bike with the weirdest things, and you're just in no rush. If you have to set up a tent and it's getting dark, it's like, well, we'll figure it out with as much lighting as I have, batteries. You might get up the next morning and you're thinking about it, what is it, why is it? And then you discover, this is the DR650, the kickstand switch, the kill switch. That's gotta be what it is. Or I'm hitting a bump and my kickstand's dropping down, so that cutoff switch, that stupid switch, that's what it is. So you learn to clip that and tie them together, loop it, and you just discover things and you figure it out. You'd be surprised. Oh, another thing which is really cool, especially on an adventure motorcycle, if you're out there for any length of time, a week or more, when you stop in like a gas station, convenience store gas station in the morning, and you're just gassing up, and then you want a coffee, so you park your bike over in the parking area, or maybe at the edge of the fuel station, and your gear's dirty, and you're kind of dirty, and you're sitting there sipping on a coffee, and it's a Monday morning, and so many people want to talk to you. They see what you're doing, they know what you're doing, and a lot of these people dream of being able to do that and may never do it, but it's so welcoming, and they find you refreshing, that at least somebody gets to do that. And they got a lot of questions, where are you going, where are you coming from, how far, how long have you had this bike, what do you, just like all these questions, and then they have to jump in their car and do what we've all had to do, and that's the punch a clock and go to work. And being in nature, being on a motorcycle, paying attention. These are all important traits to develop if you want to ride motorcycles for 50 years and never having a serious wreck. That's it. I can talk on and on and on. I want to thank you for watching. Hey, subscribe and like this. I never asked to do that, but I'm getting close to 1,000 subscribers, which is not a big deal, but that's when I get monetized. And now I turn this more into a profession, and will be more excited about making these type of videos. So anyways, as adventure motorcyclists say across the world, cheers.